Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Well, we are living in the age of COVID, and it requires in us many new coping patterns, many new adaptations, a tremendous amount of creativity, and we human beings are wired to connect. We are wired to connect, and many of us are in quarantine, in isolation. So what on earth do we do with this? Well, I am very pleased to introduce to you my dear friend, Susan RoAne, who is an international author and speaker and consultant and seminar leader, among many other things. And she's not just an author, she's a best-selling author of How to Work a Room, The Secrets of Savvy Networking, and others. Welcome, Susan RoAne.
It is so nice to be here. I love when you said and other things. And I go, but cooking you wouldn't ask. And now that we're truly in the pandemic, I'm like,
yes,
cooking, and I'm going, oh, I'm not good at this.
Yeah. I know you told me how you have a light meal at night. You have your main meal during the day and a little cereal or something at night, very light. And everyone should know that Susan RoAne is a very diminutive, petite, slender woman. So Susan RoAne, you're also called the Mingling Maven. And you, what say you about what on earth we can do to stay sane and happy and connected during lockdown?
Well, how about this? If you stay connected, you will stay sane and happy.
Oh, there you go. Exactly.
It's so easy because where I live in Northern California, we went into shelter in place before even the state of California did. San Francisco, Marin, Santa Cruz did. So we have really been isolated for a long time. But that didn't mean not connected to people. And
exactly.
I think to myself, being isolated inside is one thing, but you don't have to be alone. I mean, even Alexander Graham Bell had this magnificent creation called the telephone. It is not just mothers that say, you could give me a call once in a while. The rest of us are saying it.
So yes, having an old-fashioned phone visit, or as we did yesterday, have a new-fashioned Zoom visit, even better, right? But the idea of, I used to be one of those people who would say, I don't talk on the phone. I don't, because I would make appointments with my friends, so I would be able to see my friends. And after my last client left at 9 p.m., the old days in my home where I had, have people coming to my home office, I didn't want to talk to a person at all, nothing, not one word. But now I schedule phone visits with my friends. And
And it reminds me, when you said that, Duffy, and I just want to say that we are physically on Zoom, so we're seeing each other, we're smiling at each other.
That's right.
Why I love, whether back in the day, and still do, Skype, FaceTime, And yesterday, I don't have children, but I'm Grandma Susan to a family. And yesterday, I looked at the time difference and called the grandson in Paris, but via WhatsApp. So I got to see him.
Yeah.
Now, I knew he was going to see me, so I made sure I had on lipstick and a concealer and had my
right.
But there is something about the visual that we can capture. So here's what I want to say to our audience. I know people are going, oh, I'm so tired of Zoom. Well, here's what I say. Thank your lucky stars.
Yeah.
That in this time of COVID,
can you imagine?
Religious services. We can have family meetings. We can have visit with friends. The nieces, the nephews, the grandchildren, the grandparents. We are blessed by technology. You might want to temper it, but you reminded me of the time when, right before I wrote How to Work a Room, I was still married then, and I would be out at events, business events in San Francisco, really 3 nights a week, mingling, connecting, etc., building my speaking business, building examples for the book. I'd come home at night, and I remember one night I had off, and my then husband said, oh, let's talk. And I remember turning to him and saying, talk! I've talked for 3 nights. I don't want to talk.
Yeah, I used to say I'm a professional mouth. I don't talk unnecessarily. Yes. And Susan, I am so glad. Susan RoAne, best-selling author. I am so glad that you're adding, besides the Zoom and the FaceTime and the Skype, the WhatsApp, because my dear sister, my younger sister, had the nerve to move to Ecuador 11 years ago. And heartbreak. But we stay in touch through WhatsApp, and I can call her anytime, and on my iPhone, and she picks up. And the reception is wonderful, and it's crazy. It's amazing. And also, of course, you have the visual on WhatsApp. But I should also let everyone know that I have a client in Dubai, and she moved from New York City to with her husband to Dubai, and we use Botim, Botim, which she introduced me to. Now, I don't know if that's just for that area of the world or what, Botim. And it's much, much better, she said, than WhatsApp. So anyway, and I think, Susan, you're so right when we look at technology as a blessing, and that I attend meetings all over the country now. I do talks without having to travel. I mean, there are so many advantages to having a Zoom way of communicating. Would you say?
Well, yes. And here's how, and I will say this, and the audience will now know, I have been a bit of a snob. I've had Zoom for like 6 or 7 years because I was always a podcast guest. But I'm not a good techie, so I'm not going to push the buttons. I can get it. And then this happened.
Right.
I just sounded like Stephen Colbert. And then this happened, and I took the Zoom that I had that was just the free one, and I upgraded to the pro because our colleague, Patricia Fripp, said to me, RoAne, you have a business. Do you really want to get cut out after 40 minutes?
Absolutely not, right.
I immediately did that. But when this pandemic started, and it's not just for business, my cousins, I was raised with 20 cousins, we're in 6 states. And I said, let's have the Cone Family Corona Ketchup Brunch, BYOB, but on the invitation it said, bring your own bagel. And, and there we were. We would not have met six states.
I know.
And what I did do, I had a picture of our grandparents that I was able to show everyone. So it's in our personal lives. I've been to, no, I'm not bragging, 3 Zoom funerals.
Wow.
I've been to a Zoom baby shower. And you know what? In September, I will be going to a Zoom bris. And for people who don't know, that's the formal ceremony where the baby is circumcised. Now, one of my friend's sons said, please tell me that the mohel, the person that's going to do it, is not going to be 6 feet from the baby.
Oh, wow. We need a especially long tool there.
So here's the thing that points out. The visual of it just gave me a headache. But we still can find humor in these events. In this, now I did go to. I was so pleased to go to 3 different Zoom memorial funeral services in Chicago because they would know I was there and I was paying my respects.
Yes.
And I know people are going to Zoom religious services. We're going to Zoom meetings. We're going to Zoom gatherings. And Dr. Duffy and I had both been members of National Speakers Association. And 3 weeks ago, I attended the online, amazingly fabulous conference that they pivoted like that in 3 months. It was amazing. I've been to a film festival. I've been to ballet, and I just tell everyone, I got the best seat in my own house.
Exactly.
There's so much out there. And for those who are parents and are obligated with the pressure of being a teacher, which I was for a lot of years, I can't imagine that you're doing this. One of my friends told me about Out School, that for $7 or $10, she has her daughter do little extra classes. I think that right now we are in this pandemic, but we are the beneficiaries of having online groups, online gatherings. We can go to networks and say, can you give me an idea how to do this? So the idea is stay connected.
Stay connected. Physically isolated, but stay connected. And
And here's the point I would say, and this is one that Richard Branson quoted me on. Oh my God, I was hoping I get a free Virgin ticket to the UK, but they don't let us anymore. Be the person who initiates. One of the things I've always said is one of the things that stops us from working a room is we think good things come to those who wait. In my version was good things come to those who initiate. So don't think of yourself as, well, I'm shy. Well, I'm an introvert. Well, I'm a this. Stop with the labels. Stop with self-labels. If there's someone you want to see or someone you're worried about, right now we're like in the atmosphere of plagues, hurricanes, fires, who knows? And you're worried about someone that maybe you haven't talked to in 4 years, send a note, send an email, send a text. Stay connected. By the way, here's what happens when you check in with someone you haven't talked to for 4 years about a pending, I'm just going to call them all plagues.
Yes.
I just did that. And I got back the nicest response explaining to me where he was in the relation to the pending plague. And you know what? It meant something to him.
Yes.
So right now, we want to just be connected. We want to be connected to our networks. And when you get an invitation online that says you're invited to, and you go, oh, I don't know these people, consider this the Zoom room that you have to work because you're going to meet people. And I just went to a couple of network events that they put us in these breakout rooms, and you got to meet people and do like it's the Saturday Night Live, Linda Richmond, talk among yourselves.
Yes.
And we did. So this is me saying, when you get this invitation, consider it and say yes.
Yes, exactly. Which is a rule for improv, right? It's always, yes, I will enter into this with you. Yes, and, yes, and, yes, and. Say yes. So you are listening to 90.3 WHPC. We are Just Relationships. This is Dr. Duffy Spencer interviewing best-selling author Susan RoAne, How to Work a Room, The Secrets of Savvy Networking. And we're talking about staying connected during the plague, the quarantine, all of that. So I think you're saying two basic things, Susan. Number one, initiate, which is another, with Steve Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Be proactive, and assertiveness, when you look at assertiveness, which is the only way that healthy people communicate, it is the combination of assertiveness, putting yourself out there, initiating, knowing who you are, what you want, knowing to ask, not to demand, and responsiveness to the other person, So it's a double win. So when you're saying, I'm going to, in the language you're giving, initiate, be proactive, and say yes, be responsive. So when people come to you, meet them, greet them, be receptive. Sometimes when we approach people, like there's nobody behind the reception desk. So we really, really want to be receptive to others. And as you're saying, it's a gift. It's a gift to be receptive to someone. You felt so good, that your friend felt so good, that you had reached out. Again, it's a double win.
I have, and I will say the word again, I was fortunate enough to have a femtor. Now, I said to dear Sally Livingston, oh, you're my mentor. And listen, this is 40 years ago. She said, mentor? I can't be your mentor. I'm your femtor. She coined the phrase. And by the way, if any of you have encountered anyone that's trademarked it, know that they got that from my book, because Sally made up the word. And
yes,
one of the things she said to me, because she knew that I was a giver, and I love the way she phrased it, and I quoted her in several books and in a number of presentations. If giving feels so good, why not give to the takers an opportunity to know the joy of giving?
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I know something.
Okay.
Isn't that a great one?
Yeah. And how do you actualize that? How do you do that? Show the takers the joy of giving.
Well, sometimes you have to let them know you need something.
Okay.
And and I had this happen. I was going to say back in the old days when we actually met with people, which was 6 months ago. But when I was early starting my career, I'm a former teacher laid off by San Francisco Unified when they laid off 1,200 teachers, and then got on this path. But the path also took me to women entrepreneurs, and then to the San Francisco Chamber, which I then just didn't join. I signed up to be on a committee. And then when they said we were going to do a marketing for small business, would you chair it? And I'm like, oh, gosh.
Wow.
Oh, yes, I'll do that. And I wanted to say no because, unless you're handing me a paper where I can take it and correct your grammar, that was not my skill, but I said yes. Oh. And I will never forget one gentleman, I remember his name, because we brought in Jay Levinson to speak, the famous Jay Levinson. Yeah. And this guy, Bob, raised his hand and he said, well, if marketing is such, and you've done favors for people, how come they don't know how to return the favor? Yeah. And I really thought about it for a second, and I could feel myself channeling my grandmother who laid out. Yeah, and it was from her thinking. I also could envision her laying on the couch for 20 years. People thought she had brittle bones, but I just thought she was stuck to the plastic covers. But anyway, And I could hear her say, how can people know what you want? They don't even know what they want.
Exactly.
So take my grandmother's thought in your head and realize, if you figure out what you want and need, help people help you. Ooh, that was very Tom Cruise-y of me, Jerry Maguire. Help people help you. When you figure out, when someone says to me, oh, I think you should write another book, I don't need your help for telling me another book. Here's what I need your help for. Tell me how to do the Zoom breakout sessions. Know what you need.
Exactly.
Let people know.
And in my language, as a Gestalt therapist, we don't diagnose according to, we have the official DSM, we have to for insurance purposes. But basically, our definition of what a healthy person is as compared to a neurotic person is something called the contact cycle, which means how much contact do you make with yourself and with others? Because we always have the individual organism and the environment, whether the environment is people environment or natural environment, it's always the juxtaposition of the individual with their environment. And a healthy person goes out into the world to get their needs met. The root of all motivation is need fulfillment. We are all naturally motivated to meet our needs if we're healthy. Now, the thing is, people can be interrupted at any point in the contact cycle. They can be interrupted at the very basic aspect of, as you said earlier, as Grandma said, they don't know what their needs are. People don't necessarily even know what their needs are. And part of that is, I think, the idea of, do I deserve having my needs met? They have been taught, many people, some needs are not good and you're not supposed to have certain needs. And so they repress them so they don't feel hurt all the time and declare themselves needless. So that's a number one interruption. A number two is, yes, I know what my needs are, but I'm too scared to go out and meet them. I might fail. The next one is, yes, I'm going out, I'm mustering my resources to go out to meet my needs, and something goes wrong, or I continue on the contact cycle and something goes right. Now, here's another place people get interrupted. They will be getting their needs met, but not savoring it and enjoying it. Like, okay, I wanted to connect with people, I'm at a party, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm not taking it in, okay? Or we can take it in, we can savor getting our needs met. And then after that, there's like, after an orgasm, there's like a state of plateau and rest and digest and assimilate. And that's what we call growth. New people, new experiences, and we have that assimilation stage, and then another need surfaces. And that's what healthy people do. Unhealthy people are blocked. They have obstacles to getting their needs met. So what say you about that, Susan RoAne?
I say, you didn't see me. I was taking notes.
I did see you, and I did see you taking notes.
Oh, my God.
And I'm so impressed that someone like best-selling author would take notes from what I'm saying.
Hey, you're not Dr. Duffy for nothing. I got to learn from you. I think what you're saying is in your language, and you have trained for that. I don't have the training, but from my point of view, and a lot of it, it's maybe that I live in San Francisco, but I was a born and bred Chicago person. So the practical of, and I know people who don't think they deserve their needs being met. But at this point, I think this plague, this pandemic, has made it such that we are all in the same boat.
Oh, that is, yes.
And
that's the commonality that you talk about, that we all need to find common ground. Yes.
I was interviewed for an article in the New York Times. I'm just kind of bragging here. But the essence was, can you have a conversation in this COVID times, not about COVID? And I gave her all the whatever. And I loved her. She was great. It was a good article. But what I said to her was, people wonder and worry and strive in conversation to have a common bond. Right now, we have a common subject, a common thing that is global.
Well, that's that even better. Not better. It's worse in one way, but I hope people identify as global citizens.
It is. I went to, in February, in the end of January, I went to Italy and France. The granddaughter was doing a winter at Stanford, and Stanford's in Florence. So, of course, as everyone knows how you have to talk to teenagers, I had to say, would it work for you if I perhaps come visit you for your birthday? And then the answer was yes. Well, I scurried home and started all the planning. But her local family has become my family. So I stay in touch with them. It's WhatsApp, it's Facebook. If I'm with Olivia, who's back here now, I send a picture. Our world is global. Like your sister, I've known he's been in Ecuador for years. I have friends all over. The other he's living in Paris. My nephew's living in Paris. Yeah. In fact, yesterday, later in the afternoon, I had a WhatsApp with my nephew and my great nephew. Yeah. And can you imagine how wonderful that is? We could not have had that 20 years ago.
We could not have had it.
So think of it globally. I mean, it's...
Right. It's true. And not only is it international communication, it is inexpensive international communication. That is huge. That is so huge. And people, younger people take that for granted. But I remember when long distance calls were super expensive.
Oh my goodness.
And calls to other countries were outlandish. Susan RoAne, I cannot believe we are finished with this show. We have done it. We have completed it. And the treat for everybody is that Susan is coming back next week. So this is the first of a 2-part series with renowned author Susan RoAne, the Mingling Maven, on how to stay mingling through COVID. So this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.